Ghana's elections since 1992 have been dominated by the traditional mass political parties, with the NDC and the NPP proving the most successful. But there have also been individuals, some very colorful, who have gone against the grain of contesting on the ticket of established parties. The era of the independent presidential candidate actually became a trend in 2008. Names like Jacob Osei-Yeboah, Kweku Entry Owusu, Lawrence Yamil Nketia, John Alex Hammer, Major Ibrahim Rida, Kwame Esiedu-Walker, and Chief Dr. Yao Kumi have all caught the independent presidential candidate bug. But in actuality, only 2 persons have actually made it on the ballot as presidential candidates independently. In 2016, for instance, Jacob Osei-Yeboah, as an independent candidate, garnered 15,889 votes.
What Ghana needs is an all-inclusive governance. And then it must be in the hands of a technocrat. And Joy stands for all-inclusive governance. And I am a technocrat because I am an engineer. And that is why Obama says that the 21st century will be shaped not by what happens in Rome. So Rome gave that message to Cardinal Texan. Now Washington, we've seen what has happened, Trump. And we've seen what the Russians are doing in Aleppo. So the 21st century, they are waiting for what Joy stands for. And that is the leadership that I've been showing. You see, most of the political parties' leaders, they have no clue. And that is why the other time I told them that whether they've read our curriculum, our educational curriculum, was not developed by Ghanaians. And so I asked them that they should go and read the confessions of the economic hitman. And then they will understand why we have such an army of unemployed graduates and how that one could be used to destabilize the various countries in Africa. And that is why our manifesto is about an antidote of all that has been cut. Your leaders always think about how to win your votes. It's not about how to solve the problems that we have. But Joy 2012, we are the problem solvers. And the best. They all know none of them can stand us.
In 2012, the same Jacob Osei-Yeboah had 15,201. And then to the person who can call himself the trendsetter, Kwesi Amoafo-Yeboah, he garnered 19,342 votes in the 2008 election. Why am I going through all these statistics? Because another person has put his name out there. Marricke Kofi Gane wants to become president of Ghana as an independent candidate. He is my guest on Face to Face. And before we talk to him, let's watch this video that he put out there to tell Ghanaians why he wants to be president.
Our leaders have stabbed our dreams with their greed and buried our hopes with their mediocrity. And if we continue down this path, it will cost us another 60 years. We don't have another 60 years. As I come before you, I feel the frustration you feel because the systems don't work. I feel the helplessness you feel because our democracy has been captured by political party elders. Believe me, I also feel the robbery you feel because those who gain the most out of our society do the least for our society. This is about Ghana. Now, I don't know about you, but I am tired of seeing our elderly give up their best, only to go on retirement and be treated like beggars. I'm tired of our youth wasting away because we fail to give them the right equipping to create their own opportunities. I'm tired of seeing ordinary Ghanaians live indecently because our economy does not reward efforts. And I certainly am tired of our diaspora afraid of returning to their motherland. And yes, I am tired of seeing our businesses unable to compete globally or regionally because our policies make them so. God has indeed blessed our homeland, Ghana. It is up to us to make her great and strong. And it is for this very reason that I come before you today and with the utmost humility announce my intention to run for the high office of the President of the Republic of Ghana in 2020 December, and as an independent candidate. Not because I am perfect, not because I have the money to buy your votes, not because I have the political machinery to deploy propaganda. I do it because it needs to get done. I do it because this country is all I have. I gave up a lot to make this decision so that posterity does not have to endure the same losses we had to. Some 20 years from now, we will all have the chance to say, when we realized things weren't working well, we got up and we made a difference. I am asking you to join me and let's make that difference. I need you to get up and do something. Bring your energy as a volunteer. Bring your vote as a citizen. Bring your finances for support. Influence your family. Influence your friends. Influence a whole village. But for Ghana's sake, do something. Do it not because I have asked you to. Do it because Ghana does deserve better. Do it because you truly want to make a difference. I have no doubt, none at all, that with your resolve and my leadership, we can both disrupt the status quo and take Ghana forward. What have you got to lose? My name is Marricke Kofi Gane, and I stand for three things and three things only. One, I will always put Ghana first. Two, I will always put Ghana first. And three, I will always put Ghana first. Thank you.
Marricke Kofi Gane is my guest. Marricke, welcome.
Thank you.
What was the reaction to that video when you shared it?
I think somebody described it best as we must have broken some of the three legs of the Facebook table for Ghana. So it was phenomenal. The response was phenomenal. We had expectations. We just didn't expect that level of feedback or interaction. But it sends another message to us, which is that we're doing something right. And so, yes, it was. Of course, there were people who felt this was not significant, and you know, we respect those thoughts. They're entitled to those. But yeah, it sends the right message across to us. So yeah, it was a good thing.
In the video, you say the current leadership of greed and mediocrity, and it has to change. Why is Marricke Kofi Gane the answer?
Largely because I'm not part of the corrupt system. So to start with, I do have the political will to either contend with the system or change it if that is what is required. So I mean, you can't change corruption that you're part of. It's quite difficult. Which is why, in cases like that, outsiders always have, a better, prerogative to do that. And I'm motivated to do that because, look, it affects me too. People might think because I want to do this, it makes me different from everybody else. I'm a normal, ordinary Ghanaian as well. And so I see this on a more day-to-day basis in terms of how it affects me too, than how somebody would think it affects other people because I'm up there. I'm not up there. So this is me being very Ghanaian about the problem. So it's not because I think otherwise to what other Ghanaians think. I think the same things Ghanaians think. I just think I'm at the point where I need to do something about it. It's no more a choice for me as to whether to do this or not to do that. I think it's at a point where it can't be a choice anymore.
What are the factors that have pushed you to this point? Because I watched the video and your premise is that of a frustrated Ghanaian who sees no salvation with the two parties that we have, at least for now.
Well, I mean, your answer is actually right in there. We've since the Fourth Republic, we've tried the NDC. I have voted for the NDC before. We've tried the MPP. In 2016, I voted for the MPP. So, and I think it's not one of those things where it can be subjective anymore, because we all see what's happening. We all see what has happened within the NDC's era. I don't think any Ghanaian now can say, and I used to be having this argument previously. I used to say, you know what, it looks like they're all the same. And I used to get a lot of bashing for that. But no Ghanaian can say genuinely now that there aren't similarities between the NDC's way of doing things and the NPP's way of doing things. So it's, again, I go back to the fact it's not just me being frustrated. I'm just depicting what is out there. I'm just one of the many Ghanaians who feel the same way.
Now, Ghana's electorate does not have a good history with independent candidates, and I'm sure you factored this in.
I have.
You're not afraid?
I shouldn't be, otherwise nothing will get done. I cannot be afraid, otherwise nothing will get done. And this is the thing about democracy for me. I think we've missed the understanding of democracy. No one person comes and gets it all done. Everybody comes in, does the best in the circumstances, then pushes themselves to do the most they can in those circumstances, leaves the best they can leave behind for the next order, who comes and builds. So it's always going up. What we have now, it's not that. One person builds, comes the next person, he pushes it all down because he feels it's got to go down for him to look up. The next guy comes in and pulls the other ones down again and then starts all over from scratch. So really, we haven't really been going anywhere. And I always cite examples in what have happened in other jurisdictions. You know, somebody starts a project, it's a national project, so it's considered as a national project. The next guy comes, that project is ring-fenced politically, is ring-fenced financially. You can't pull it down simply because you think you're not the one who started it. And we get these things wrong. And as long as we're going to get it wrong, we're going to go in those sort of revolving circles. And look, I heard stories from my grandfather, how he felt Ghana was doing brilliant. I had some reduced versions of that story from my father. And I face up to this point where I say to myself, what story am I really going to tell my kids? And so it was at a point where I said to myself, you know what, you can't just sit back anymore and not have a story. I've got to create one. And my story is not about me wanting to do this. It's about the fact that I was proud about something about Ghana when I lived. So it's not about, people say it's about me wanting to be popular. It's not about, I'm not here to be somebody. I'm not here to be popular. I'm here to get a job done.
But in order to get the job done and make that impact, you need to convince people. And that's why perhaps there might be those who say, why didn't you want to be an assemblyman? Why did you want to become a member of parliament? Why the president when you are just coming out of basically nowhere politically?
But that example is, see, that's the kind of problem. The premise of that thinking is that you need to be able to show that you are capable only after you have been through a rung of processes.
But people need to be able to identify with you through those ranks of processes.
But am I supposed to be, can you only identify me after I have been through those processes? Are we saying no? I'm asking a question as well. Is it because we feel you cannot be identified anywhere else in that ladder unless you've gone through the whole ladder? Because look, human creativity comes off in different forms. There is somebody whose level of highest level of creativity will show up as an assembly person because it's just how they're wired. There's somebody whose level of creativity shows up in a totally different level because their way of thinking, their way of seeing the world, their visionary capabilities are entirely different. So it's almost as though we're saying we want to kill creativity without actually realizing we're killing creativity by saying you have to start from there before you're recognized. And it's a wrong message we're sending out to the youth that, look, you know what, in order to be recognized in doing something, you have to follow a set process. That in itself kills the whole idea about asking our youth to go out there and be creative and do something and change the world. You can't change the world by being a traditionalist. It's not going to happen.
So you do not fear the history of Ghana's politics, which has basically chewed out several independent candidates. You will not be the first, on the basis that they are simply not national enough and that people do not identify with them, because you might not want to admit it. 60% of Ghana's voting population is rural.
It's not me being non-admitting of the issue. I think we have recognized that. I wouldn't be sitting here without having thought through that. So the question really is, look, there's two sides to that. One, I don't know how the previous independent candidates run their campaign. That's one side of it. We've got to factor that in. I didn't run their campaigns for them. They know how they run their campaigns, so they'll probably be best suited to defend why they didn't make the impact they made. I know how I want to run my campaign. I know how my team wants us to run our campaign, and I know it's going to be very different. If the science of my declaration is anything to go by, I can assure you it's going to be different every step of the way, because that's how.
In the national picture.
Even at the national picture, even at the local level. I can tell you one thing for a fact, for example. Everybody says to me, oh, you don't have the political machinery of the NDC or the political machinery of the MPP. Granted, I agree to that. We factor that in. Oh, you don't have the money the NDC has or the war chest that the MPP has. I agree. I totally accept that. But it's because we know we cannot beat them on their own turf in those terms. That is why we won't do things like they do. Which takes me back to why I was answering the other question the way I answered it, because we can't be seen to be doing things a certain way simply because that's the way it's always been done. For me, the bigger question is, if that is the way it's always been done, has it had any major results? If it hasn't, we would be shooting ourselves in the foot before we started trying to do it the same way. We're not going to do it the same way.
It seems you are banking your political aspirations on a sudden change in national mentality towards voting.
If it offers, in fact, I won't say if it offers. If it is offering itself as a tool for us to use, yes, we would explore it. Everything comes into the picture. It's just like, I don't know what's the best anecdote to give to. It's just like a sniper about to take a shot. He takes into consideration everything. The wind speed, the wind direction, everything comes into consideration. Distance, everything. So we do have to take these things into consideration. Yes, I know the psyche has changed. We know that for a fact. We know in what direction it's changing. We know the demographics have changed. We know what direction is changing.
And you've tested all this?
We know what we need to know to get things done. I think that's the easiest way to put it. And of course, we have to know. Otherwise, because you see, that's the big thing for us. For us, information is key. And getting the right information, and not only the information as it is now, but the direction in which that information is going, is crucial for us, because this thing is not about, watching a trend and then going back and starting all over again. We want to right the trends. So we're watching a few things, and I can't say for a fact that they're all aligning to what we want to do. So, yeah, we'll give it our best shot. It's not for the fact that we fear that people have lost in the past being independent candidates. We know that.
Okay.
But we can't say we won't try. We can't say we won't do this. Otherwise, there'll be nothing to build forward on.
We'll get to some of the things that you plan on doing as president if you do get the opportunity. But you spoke about the national party machinery of the NPP and NDC, and you spoke about the funding as well. And it's important. You don't like the status quo, but you need money. How are you going to run this campaign? You're not a rich man.
I'm not. That I agree, I'm not. Can I say I'm a smart man?
Yes, you are.
Okay. But you see, it depends on how we look at these things. I'm not saying we don't need money. We need all the money we can get. However, we're not running this campaign purely on the basis of money. My view on this, and which is something I've always drummed to my team, is this. Look, just the other day we were having it was a big conversation we were having, about 24 of them and myself. And I kept saying, is that the best we can get done with this? I said, no, I cannot accept that. There's got to be a different way. And we went over it about 5 times. But that is the kind of mindset I want to bring to the process, is that, look, somebody has 1 million. We have 10 cities. He wants to get to a position. We want to get to a position. Yes, he's got the money. We haven't. So do we say because he's got the money, we wouldn't find ways of getting there? No, that's not the case. So we are under more pressure to use our minds. We're under more pressure to be creative about how we do things. We're under more pressure to be actually critical about how we get things done. And that's exactly what we've been doing. So
You're not worried by the funding issue?
There's going to be funding. I mean, we'll have some level of funding. That's not a thing to fear. But just enough for us to get what we need to get done.
Oh, okay. Ghana has a history of conducting very transactional politics. In fact, the data, the literature shows that our politics is dominated by clientelism. You do not fear this.
See, I don't know.
You can decide to say, I would do this about it, but that is the nature of our politics.
I agree that is the nature.
We could say your strategy has not factored that in?
No, that's not the point. The point is, look, we know all that. We know the transactional nature of our politics. The question nobody has, you see, so MPP has done it. NDC has done it. So we all feel that's the way it has to be done. Do you understand what I'm saying? The fact that you're asking the same question is indicative that you feel that is the way it has been done, so it should actually be a problem. What we are doing is to reverse the order and say, okay, if that is the way it's always been done, how can we do it differently? And then sit on the table.
But isn't that also being naive, Marricke?
No, it's not being naive. Because when the NDC and the NPP started this, there probably was no grounds rule set. They decided, you know what, how do we go about this? And they decided, oh, actually, we've built a war chest. Let's use the war chest. At that level, that was their thinking. At that level, that's what worked. And that's what has worked for them until now. The fact that we are saying we don't want to do it the same way does not mean that we do not recognize the problem. There's two different things. It's one thing to recognize the problem and say, okay, because I've recognized the problem, I think I need to solve it a different way. That's problem solving. So I don't accept the fact that we are not afraid means that we don't recognize it. We recognize all the problems. We just don't want to do things the same way.
Okay. We run a parliamentary democracy.
Yes.
How do you intend to go around that hurdle?
How do you mean? I need to understand the question
as
properly.
An independent candidate.
Yes.
I'm not sure. Are you putting out parliamentary candidates as well?
So the basis of the question, you're worried about how I'm going to get Parliament to sign up to my policies?
Definitely, because you do need it.
Yeah. Okay. There's two ways I look at that question. One of them is, and this is what we tend to miss all the time. One of them is the fact that, you see, the fact that our Constitution, which we all ascribe to, has that provision, means that the Constitution recognizes that it is a workable solution for us. Whether they recognize it will work then or subsequently at some other point, the Constitution does recognize, and we do also need to recognize that it is a workable thing. That's one side to it. The other angle, I'll look at it in three angles. The other angle I look at it is this, and I was sharing this with somebody the other day. That, look, what we've always said, and I'm sure you feel the same way about our three arms of government, is that the executive should be independent of the legislature, and that the legislature should be a check on the executive. Currently, as we have it, the legislature is largely, and I'll challenge anybody who would challenge this perception, the legislature is largely, how do I put it, an extension of the executive. That does not make independence of the legislature possible. It does not make the oversight of the legislature possible because of that relationship they have. Having an independent candidate means that, in effectively, just by that arrangement alone, there is a wedge between the legislature and the executive. So there is some level of independence. They might look at it as though they're trying to punish my policies. I would look at it as though they're trying to do their jobs and getting my policies scrutinized. What it does mean, however, is that at some point in that process, and what we don't realize is it's a two-way process. If legislature hurts the policies of executives, those policies don't get run, it hurts legislatures' roles further. And we need to recognize that. What it does mean, however, is at some point in the process, and very critically so, the two would have to sit at the table and have some difficult conversations. We've never had that process. We've never had that process. That is the real agenda for having a three-arm government. We've never had the process of having difficult conversation between the executive and the legislature. If that is happening, then we can be certain that certain things executives are doing are going to be well scrutinized. And so when they happen with the consent of everybody on board, whether NDC or MPP or independent or whoever. But largely that draws the whole of Ghana in, because don't forget the legislature is actually the representative of the people. And we need to all be seen as doing something in one direction. It only happens when we have those hard decisions or conversations. The last arm of this whole picture I see is this. I'm sure you know it, or probably don't know it, or you know it and trying to be nice about it. The fact remains. The fact that people, MPs, legislators are in parliament on the ticket of the NDC and the MPP does not mean they are happy with everything the NPP and the NDC are doing. There are people in parliament who are not happy with what their parties are doing. And they would happily work with somebody who wants to progress the country. Because the fundamental fact is this. They are in parliament because they want to do something good for their constituencies. As it is now, you are likely more to toe the line of the party than the line of what your constituency actually wants. And having an independent candidate is actually giving them that offer to say, you know what? I'm not worried about whether you are NDC or MPP. This, for me, is about Ghana. If you can get your community working better, if the ideas I have about getting your community better is actually going to have the community better, I don't care whether you're NDC or you're MPP. The point I'm trying to make is this. If you agree that we should do this in your community, the guys in your community are going to be happy that you made that happen. You can take all the glory for all I care. That's not my business. So I keep stressing that point. This is not about me. This is about Ghana. I don't care whether you're MPP or an NDC. All right. The beautiful thing, however, is that I know...
Hold on to that thought for me. I'm speaking to Marricke Kofi Gane, who wants to be president of Ghana, on Face to Face. He says he will run as an independent candidate. We'll have more when we return.
Tune in to The Point of View, Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. as Bernard Avlet takes the news further. He will bring the right guest, ask them the relevant questions, and get you the real insights you need on the big stories for the day.
I predict that 2 billion that GATT is supposed to raise is going to be very challenging. And I say that very carefully. Think about it.
The Point of View with Bernard Avlet, Monday and Wednesday nights, only on City TV. For all the news, analysis, projections, and policies that affect your business, curated and delivered in a simple and timely format. Watch Business Dashboard, your most comprehensive source of business news, every weekday at 7 p.m. only on City TV. Business Dashboard on City TV is sponsored by ADB Bank, truly a Greek and more.
Welcome back to Face with Marricke Kofi Gane, who is sharing with us how he plans to become president of Ghana as an independent candidate. We'll also be discussing some of the things that he has on his agenda if he does get the opportunity, and some of the things that he wants to do, perhaps to convince Ghanaians that he is the man for the job. Now, one question again on Parliament before we move on to your agenda. Our constitution states that you must pick ministers.
I know.
From Parliament.
Yes.
In fact, a lot of your ministers. Yes. You don't like the status quo.
I don't like the status quo, no.
Yes, but the constitution says, and you cannot review the constitution at that point. You still need to pick the ministers.
I agree.
How do you go about this?
Okay. So I don't like the status quo not because of the... so there's two things we're talking about here. There's a system that is supposed to make governance work. What we've done is to make some of those systems run by politicians, not people who we believe are right for those roles. Those are two different things. I don't have a problem with individuals. I have a problem with how they run the system. And I want to make that very clear. What we've done in the past is to mix up, and I've said this elsewhere, is to mix up the art of doing politics with the business of running a state. You and I would agree, or at least some people agree, that the Constitution as it is being formulated currently does not really work well because it forces the government to have to appoint people that they may not necessarily want to appoint because that's what it is. My job is to find out, first of all, we do have a pipeline of those we think can get things done the right way.
From Parliament?
Not from Parliament, not necessarily from Parliament. We do have a list of people we think are capable. But the point I'm making is this: I would gladly choose people from Parliament. Thankfully, if you have read my sort of political CV that I put out, thankfully, there are areas that are key to me. We've got 8 broad areas we want to look at. And what I show on there is the 4 front-running ones that I want to focus on.
Education, systems building, agriculture, and politics.
And politics. So I think it's politics and something. But the point I'm making is this. I have 4 areas that are key to me and 4 areas that are lagging areas. And I intentionally did that. We intentionally did that. The fact that we have to recruit at least 50% of people from Parliament, it doesn't state in what roles they need to be appointed in, just ministers. So there is some leverage in there. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but there is some leverage in there as to whether I choose to put them in my leading ministries or not in my leading ministries. So there is a leeway around there. The other way I say this is this. Look, people are in Parliament because they claim they want to serve the people. At the point where you get told or approached to say, you know what, we feel you are best suited to this or that. We need you to do it for the people. It's up to you to prove to the Ghanaians whether you're actually there for them or not, because you have a trump card in your hand that says, you know what, based on the election of the president, who is an independent and who has been given the mandate to choose who is best to get things done, he believes on our behalf that you're the best person for the job. Whether you accept it or not is indeed your signage to the people to say, well, I don't care about you, I do.
Okay. All right. Let's break down the 4 main areas that you have.
Okay.
The 4 you put out there.
Yeah.
You talk about education, building systems. I want to talk about building systems. You
Okay.
claim you're a professional at building systems. On what scale have you built systems that actually work?
I would have to take you to what we call pretty much everywhere I've worked. So I'll probably have to take you to a place like DR Congo. I'd have to take you to a place like South Sudan. I would have to take you to a place like way back in the days, Rwanda. I'd have to take you to a place like Mozambique, which is coming up, or Angola, or pretty much every place where we call sensitive environments. Yes, they may have backtracked into, some of them back into civil war like South Sudan, but I am proud to say that we went into some of those areas and it was nothing. It was absolutely nothing. And this is not just me doing it all by myself. This is a team agenda. Go in there with funding from different sources and get some systems running all the way up to the. I'll give you an example. The easiest example I'll give is the last role I was in, which was in South Sudan. When we went into South Sudan, they didn't have a health system. It literally was non-existent. They have hospitals running now, well coordinated.
And you contributed to that?
I don't see who would come up and say I did not. Yes, I was part of the team. It's called, you can check it out, it's called the Health Pool Fund. We set up that fund. We went on the ground and made things happen. So, so we can't say that we don't know how things can be built from scratch up. Okay. I've been privileged to work in some of the environments where making systems work has been all the work we've done, largely. So I don't see why not I cannot extend that to
on a national scale.
On a national scale.
I look at Agric, and I was asking myself while looking at your Agric agenda, what is the difference between what you have there and what the government has vis-a-vis Planting for Food and Jobs, one district, one F, one district, one warehouse? It looked almost the same to me.
Why do you feel it looks the same?
That is how it looked like. You can tell me the difference.
Okay, I certainly don't have one district, one factory there.
You spoke about warehousing.
Well, there's a reason why I spoke
about processing Agric.
Yeah,
you spoke about increasing productivity in Agric.
Okay, maybe I should explain in different terms why it is different. So I also spoke about irrigation, for example.
Yes.
But when I spoke about irrigation, so that version of the document you have, you must agree, is a very summarized version.
Very much
right.
so.
So it's not got all the details on there. That's one. Two, I'm very careful what I'm talking about because we are not in campaign mode, so I can't be seen as shooting out my manifesto. I can't do that. But what I do want to say is that, yes, I know the government is doing irrigations all around. But irrigations, and I have traveled, so I know this for a fact. The irrigations are being done in silos. There's one here, you drive a mile, there's one there, you drive a mile, there's one there. Okay. It's different from what I have in mind.
Okay.
I want a very integrated irrigation process. If it should be on there as a term, because I'm very careful about those terms. What we want is an irrigation system that is very well coordinated and integrated. And it has to be integrated for me. And we know why it has to be integrated. So we didn't just get up and write a manifesto. There's a lot of research that has gone into it. It's a lot of consultation that has gone into the process. But do pardon me that I can't get into that detail.
No worries.
Because of where we are at.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then under political, you talk about a review of the Constitution and extermination of corruption.
Yes.
I look at extermination of corruption. That is, for your regular political ideologue, almost utopian.
It's not utopian.
Managing corruption, yes. Exterminating corruption?
Why not?
Marricke.
Why not? It starts from me.
What are you going to do?
I hold myself accountable first.
You don't think our leaders are holding themselves accountable enough?
Are they?
I'm asking you. You're the candidate.
I don't think there's corruption non-existent at the very high levels. Unless you can prove to me otherwise. There's corruption everywhere. There's corruption every single where. And people say, how are you going to be non-corrupt? And I say to people, the easiest answer I can give you is this. Look, the last time I was managing a fund for the UK government, it was a fund in the excess of 500 million. That's almost a billion. Actually, 500 in one fund, another 300 in another fund, almost 1 billion. Okay. They've done their audits. They've looked at the fund. Nothing has been missing, not even a cent, not even a penny. So if I can hold myself accountable at that level, I don't see why I should not hold. I hold myself accountable every single day. That's why I'm a professional. That's what I do. I don't get paid to just pay money out. I get paid to make sure that we get the best out of those monies. And over time, that is what has become a lifestyle to me. So holding myself accountable is not something new I'm going to learn how to do. It's what I do on a daily basis.
Okay.
And if it starts with me, I don't see why. See, the thing we've got in this process is that if people don't hold themselves accountable at the very top, or those around them, it's difficult to actually go down there and say, you know what, we've got to stop what is happening down there, because you're not even accountable. You've not got it tight at your end. And that's why I put myself forward and said, this has got to start with me and those around me.
But again, the nuances of politics are such that you have all kinds of people around you.
Right.
Who might not hold themselves to the same level of accountability.
No, let me correct that.
And you owe those people.
Let me correct that. See, right, so you've made a good point. The reason why that is the case is currently what we have is you've got people funding political parties. And because there isn't a level of trust, if you fund my political party, and because you don't really trust me as to whether I would give you a contract genuinely and make sure you execute the job to the right standards genuinely, you don't trust all that about me. So the easiest way for you to get your money back is to demand that you're giving this money in the essence that when I become president, you want to have a position attached to that. That's the current system. So in other words, when you win power, you want to become Minister X or head of B or board director of Y. And the only reason why you're doing that is so you can keep a close eye on your money. And that's what it is now. I don't want to do that.
Okay. I'm going to read a comment from somebody who viewed your video.
Right.
You can tell me what you make of this response. It was one of the many responses you received. He says that if a Kofi Gane, and that's a friend of his, I think, decides to contest to be president, I'll be scared if I were any of the two political parties because he has the traits of the grassroots politician capable of moving all categories of persons to vote for change. He goes beyond Facebook and social media, and neither does he scare us with some Western-looking ideas and diagnosis of our challenges. My point is, you will need a revolution at the grassroots level to win as an independent candidate. Your persona and character, among others, must influence that change. I don't think our independent candidate has that. This is not a Facebook poll you are contesting. It's a national election.
You want my reaction?
Yes. This is a potential voter.
Yeah, I know. I don't dispute that. Whoever it is, first of all, thank him for making the comment. He's largely making that comment because he only knows me on Facebook. If I was to take off, and that's for me, it's a good thing. Strategy-wise, it's a good thing. It's a good thing because people feel, or the other parties feel, all I do is sit on Facebook. And that's fine by me. I'm happy for them to have that perception. And it's a good perception. So for us, if that strategy is working, we're not going to shake it off or change it. Let it work. How we engage people on the ground is our business. And I can assure Ghanaians, look, we're not in campaign season. And I need to keep making that clear. So I'm very careful the things I say. We're not in campaign season. But the places I need to be to, so far, I have been. The things I need to see, the people I need to be in touch with, I have been. So if people are not used to the phenomenal work rate we engage ourselves in, which means that you can be anywhere and everywhere at the same time, and they like to interpret that as being, I'm always on social media, that's great. I mean, it's great. I mean, the results will tell in the end.
Okay. All right, then. I hope you're enjoying this conversation with Marricke Kofi Gane as much as I can. We'll be back as we enter the final phase of Face to Face.
Every weekday at 8 p.m., City Newsroom brings you analysis of the major news stories of the day. In-depth, comprehensive, and researched. It's 1 hour of local and international news from 8 to 9 p.m. It's the City Newsroom. Weekdays on City TV. For regular news checks as they unfold, 2020 news all day, all the time. politics, sports, entertainment, business, and more. 2020 News. We bring you the world in 20 minutes.
We spice up your mornings with culturally enriched conversations, social interviews, and policy-oriented discussions that will keep you updated on the progress of the nation. Let your voice be heard with the hashtag #BreakfastDaily.
Not to be single. There are people that have been in relationships since their teenage years, for 3 years, 4 years, 7 years, 10 years, and it's one day they're like, oh my gosh, I am literally by myself right now.
Join the Breakfast Daily team Monday through Fridays from 7:30 a.m. to 10. Join us for breakfast daily, only on City TV.
Welcome back to the final phase of Face to Face. So, Marricke, one final question from me, and then we can end this conversation on Face to Face. Why should Ghanaians believe Marricke Kofi Gane?
Why should they?
Yes.
On a normal day, I would have asked why not. Because at this point, Ghanaians are fed up with the NDC and the MPP.
Are you sure of that?
I am certain.
Not your friends who are fed up.
Not my friends. Majority of the people who responded to my declaration are hardly even my friends on Facebook. I've had messages from people, I've had conversations from people who I knew from nowhere. So, like I said when this conversation started, it shows that something is being done right. And we can only continue doing that thing right. Why not? I am different. Several reasons why you should. I'm a professional. I know how to get a job done. I'm not here to joke or play. I'm not here to be somebody. I keep saying that. I'm here to get a job done. That's one. Two, I understand how the world works. And so I can position Ghana in that world. You need to understand that. You need to know where the world is going to determine, what should we do to position ourselves in any element of that world. That's two. Three, I am not part of the corrupt system. And so if there are things that need to get changed to make Ghana better, I'm not part of the system that is benefiting from it and so doesn't want to change it. And that is a point to drive home, is that, look, you're not voting for somebody who also wants to come and shop. That's not why I'm here. Okay. I'm tired of a job sitting there not getting done. And I'm here to get it done.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Marricke Kofi Gane, and all the best.
Thank you.
We'll be keeping an eye on you, especially when the campaign season begins, looking out for that manifesto so that we can dig deeper.
I'm sure you'll like it.
Yes. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Marricke Kofi Gane on Face to Face. My name is Godfred Akoto. Have a good day.